Suppression of the British. Britishers always tried to stop the movement, or they are against any kind of freedom struggle. So they always prepare a kind of act so that with the help of the act they can stop or they can avoid such kind of movements. After anti-partition movement, the government was disturbed looking at the influential public protest. So, seeing the huge number of people are against the Bengal's partition, so Britishers are very much disturbed seeing the people's protest, and they are very much afraid that the people are united and they are fighting for any movement. To control this movement, the government used the policy of suppression, and as we all know, Britishers always try to suppress the people. They want to stop us, or they want to stop the Indians for any kind of movement. Holding of public meetings were legally banned, and they announced that any kind of meeting or any kind of get together will be considered as the illegal. So they had tried to ban such kind of movement. Strict punishments were given to those who broke the law. School children were also beaten up wherever any kind of protest or any kind of rally, so they start to beat or they start to punish the people. Many restrictions were imposed on newspaper. Imposed means put. So even they had restricted or they had stopped the movement or the functionality of the newspapers. Many printing press were confiscated on grounds of blaming or criticizing the government. Even the many newspapers are, or many publication house are confiscated. What are confiscated? Captured on the grounds or on the basis of claiming that they are blaming the government or they are criticizing the government. As we all know, what is the meaning of criticize? Criticize is to make any statement against anyone. So when the newspaper are printing any right thought which is not in the favor of government, they are considering them illegal and ban such kind of newspapers. Strict actions were taken against the extremist leader. Even the writers and editors were imprisoned. The newspaper writers and editors were imprisoned. Even the strict action has been taken against the extremist leader. This led to a severe reaction in Bengal. And since already people are very much furious, and such kind of movement also create an aggressiveness in the people, the revolutionaries adopted the means of firing, bomb blasts, etc. As we all know, both extremist and moderate leaders never supported the armed struggle. But again, there are few groups, few organizations that use the armed struggle for their movement. So in this sense, seeing the situation, they started firing or bomb blasts against the Britishers. These bomb attacks were advocated through Kesari newspaper by Lokmanya Tilak. Advocated means supported. Even such kind of movement was not carried out by the Lokmanya Tilak, but he always supported such kind of movement because it was against the Britishers. It was done for the justice and for the freedom struggle. The charge of sedition was put on Lokmanya Tilak, for which he was sent to Mandalay jail at Myanmar for 6 years. The charge of sedition. Sedition means any kind of act against anyone. Charge, we know the meaning of charge. When anyone found guilty in the court, they are sentenced for the imprisonment. In the same way, charges are put against the Lokmanya Tilak and he was sent to jail at Mandalay for 6 years. Bipin Chandra Pal was sentenced to jail and Lala Lajpat Rai was deported from Punjab. Even the extremist great leaders like Lala Lajpat Rai and Bipin Chandra Pal are also punished. Lala Lajpat Rai was put in behind the jail, and even Bipin Chandra Pal was deported from Bengal. What a deported, sent out. He was sent to different places from Bengal, so that they want to control. Britishers want to control by escaping or by removing these leaders. Establishment of Muslim League. As we all know, British always follow the policy of divide and rule. So the Britishers had a talk with some Muslim leaders, and they put in their mind that the Congress is meant only for the Hindus. So Muslims should have their own organization, and in the same way, even they supported few Muslim leaders, and a new organization named Muslim League was established. The British became very disturbed looking the overwhelming response to the Indian National Congress in the anti-partition movement. What do you mean by overwhelming? Overwhelming means extremely great response. When we say overwhelming, getting majority, so British was very much furious that Indians are getting together and they're supporting to any national movement. So they want to divide the Indians' power, or they want to separate us. In the same sense, they had talked with the Muslim leaders. The British once again followed the policy of divide and rule. They started using the propaganda. What is propaganda? Propaganda means a kind of planning, strategy. They started using the propaganda that for safeguarding the interest of Muslim, they should have a separate political organization. They just pretending to the Muslim that for the welfare of Muslim or for the safeguarding. Safeguarding means protection. So they just started saying, if Muslim want to be protected, if Muslim want their power, then they need have a proper organization, because Indian National Congress won't work for the Muslim because it's a Hindu political party. Due to the motivation of the British government, a committee of upper class Muslims under the leadership of Aga Khan met Governor General Lord Minto. At that time, the Governor General was Lord Minto. So, upper class Muslims or a leader named Aga Khan met with the Governor General. Due to the motivation from Lord Minto and other British officers, the Muslim League was established in 1906. Okay, so finally, with the support of Britishers, with the discussion of Britishers, a separate organization for the Muslim was established. What is Morley Minto Act? We already know Act. Act means law. Whenever British introduce any kind of law, they give the name of that law introduced by that officer. So here Morley Minto is the name of two different officers. Basically their surname, or you can say the last name. Morley Minto Act. There was a dissatisfaction among the Indians regarding the work of British government. Yes, we all know that Indians are not happy with the functions of the British. So there was a great dissatisfaction among the Indian people. The Indian felt that the reason of poverty in India was the economy policy of British. As we all Indians always felt that the poor, the poverty, the bad situation of our country, because it happened because of the Britishers, their policy. Oppressive policy of Lord Curzon, exclusive of educated Indians in government services, unjust behavior toward Indians in Africa, all this added to the dissatisfaction of the Indian people. Already Indians are not happy with the functionality of the British or the British governance. Even the different events like partition of Bengal, even the differences created for the Indians, even the problems that are created for the Indians at South Africa, these had the added in the problem, and peoples are not satisfied with the government. So they had started their protest to stop them, to make them calm. Morley Minto Act was introduced, but it's not very much helpful. All this added to the dissatisfaction of the Indian people. As a temporary remedy, what is a remedy? Solution. Because British want to stop such kind of activities. They are not in the impression that Indians should come forward and they stand against the British. So just to calm down, just to keep them away from such kind of movement, they find a temporary remedy. Remedy means solution. As a temporary remedy on the discontent among Indians, the Morley Minto Reform Act of 1909 was passed. Underline this year. So remember, Morley Minto Act was introduced in 1909. According to this act, it increased the number of Indian members in the Legislative Assembly, and provision of inclusion of some elected Indian representative in Assembly was made. So under this act, Britishers increased the numbers of members in the Legislative Assembly, number of members from the Indians. But again, they didn't give much power to the Indians. So it is just for a formality. They just want to keep us away for any kind of movement or any kind of activities that done against the Britishers. In the same act, separate electorates, electorate means candidates, were provided to the Indian Muslims. So again, since they are introducing more Indians in the Legislative Assembly, they had made a separate electorate for Hindus and Muslims. So it doesn't make any sense. It will again create a problem between the Indians, right? That Hindus will elect their own representatives, Muslim will elect their own representatives. Then again it will create a rift between Hindus and Muslim. So it's a clear intention of the British to divide them. In the same act, separate electorates were provided to the Indian Muslims. Due to this conspiracy, what a conspiracy? Conspiracy is a kind of planning against someone. Due to this conspiracy of the British, the seeds of division in India were sown. Because of such act of Britishers, a seed of division is sown in India. We know the meaning of seed of division means they had created a kind of feeling between Hindus and Muslims that they are enemy. They don't look after each other. So they had started such kind of thinking. Lucknow Pact. What a pact? Pact is a kind of agreement. Act means law. Pact means agreement. So as we all know, Lokmanya Tilak was sent to Mandale jail for 6 years. So when he came back from the prison, so he tried to unite both Indian National Congress and Muslim League. So he was in the favor that Hindu and Muslim both together fight for our freedom. In the Lucknow Pact, and for the same reason, an agreement has been signed between the leaders in Lucknow. That's why it is called as the Lucknow Pact, or you can say Lucknow Agreement. In the Lucknow session of Indian National Congress in 1916, under the leadership of Lokmanya Tilak, an attempt was made to resolve the dispute in the Indian National Congress. Dispute means problem. We had already seen two different groups were created in Indian National Congress, the extremist group and the moderate group, and even the Muslim leaders has boycotted and they stepped out of the Indian National Congress and they had made their own different political organization named Muslim League. So to bring together, Lokmanya Tilak had came forward. In the same year, there was an agreement between Indian National Congress and Muslim League known as the Lucknow Pact. According to this pact, the Indian National Congress agreed to separate electorate to Muslims and Muslim League agreed to support the Indian National Congress in its work for getting political rights to India. So with the discussion, with the meetings, different sessions happened, and finally Muslim League and Indian National Congress agreed to work together for the welfare of the country and for the freedom struggle. Okay. Next is Home Rule Movement. Home Rule Movement was a very important movement started by Dr. Annie Besant and Lokmanya Tilak. Dr. Annie Besant was a foreigner. She already had such kind of movement in Ireland. As we all know, Ireland was also under the British imperialism. So she had brought the people, she awared the people about their rights and power, and same kind of work she carried in India also. What does the Home Rule Movement means? For example, India is our country, it's our home, so we will rule it. No, who are the Britishers to rule it? So in the same sense, this movement has been carried out with the help of Dr. Annie Besant and Lokmanya Tilak. In 1914, when Lokmanya Tilak was released from the Mandale jail, the First World War had begun in Europe. As we all know, the First World War had started in 1914 and went till 1918 at Europe. The direct consequences of this war has to be bared by India as well. As we all know, we are not involved in war, but as we are under the British control, so British has took us resources, power, money, soldiers. So we are also affected from the war. So at that time, we considered the situation in favor to us and we demanded for the complete independence from the Britishers. The rates of basic necessary commodities increase. As we all know, due to some issues, the scarcity happens. Even the basic commodities, what are commodities? The things of daily use, the prices has been increased. Many restrictions were put up on the Indians by the British government. There are so many restrictions has been put by the British on the British government. This led to increased dissatisfaction in the minds of Indian, and due to such reasons, there was again a discontent and dissatisfaction in the minds of Indian against the Britishers. In these circumstances, Dr. Annie Besant and Lokmanya Tilak started the Home Rule Movement, and in this situation, Dr. Annie Besant and Lokmanya Tilak had started the Home Rule Movement. Such movement also began in Ireland against colonialism. Already Dr. Annie Besant had started such movement in Ireland against the British colonialism. On similar means in a similar way, Home Rule Movement demanded right of self-government in India. Right of self-government means that it's our country, it's our nation, we will govern it, we will manage it. Annie Besant and Lokmanya Tilak made extensive tour in different parts of the country. Extensive means a large A huge tour means in a different parts they have traveled to and fro to a different parts, and they see in the situation of the country, and then they ask for and demand for the home rule. Annie Besant and Lokmanya Tilak made extensive tour in different parts of the country, and demand for self-government reached the common people. So people from the different territories also aware of such kind of movement. So they supported Dr. Annie Besant and Lokmanya Tilak. Tilak firmly stated that Swaraj is my birthright and I shall have it. We all know the slogan was given by Lokmanya Tilak that Swaraj is my birthright and I shall have it. आप लोग ने हिंदी में भी सुना होगा, स्वराज मेरा जन्म सिद्ध अधिकार है और ये मैं पाकर रहूंगा. इट मीन्स दैट आई एम बॉर्न फ्री, सो वाई शुड आई विल नॉट बी फ्री. इट्स माई राइट एंड आई शैल हैव इट. इट्स अ वेरी पावरफुल वर्ड सेड बाय द लोकमान्य तिलक. First World War in India. What was the situation during the First World War in India? As we are not directly participated in the World War, but since we are under the British rule, so we are impacted with the World War. The war atmosphere in Europe, growing dissatisfaction in the minds of Indians, popularity of home rule movement. In such condition, it was necessary for the British to get cooperation from the Indians, because already British are very much engaged in the World War, and since there are so many movements happening in India, so they are very much worried about the situation. So they are trying to get the cooperation from the Indians. So they have introduced certain kinds of law, certain kinds of policy to just make happy the Indian people, and they won't stand against the Britishers. But since we had reached that level that we don't want any kind of just formality, we want a complete independence. The British government decided to provide some political rights to the Indian. So since seeing the situation are not so good, the situation are not in the favor of Britishers, so they trying to give some power, some kind of opportunity to the Indians. But again, it is not as much helpful. Even Indians are not getting any higher power. The basic normal authorities or departments are given to Indian. In 1917, Montagu, Secretary of State for India, declared that step by step, Indians will give the right to self-government and responsible political system. Tilak also declared that if the government is going to show sympathy and considerable attitude towards the demand of the Indians, only the Indian public is ready to cooperate with the British. Tilak, Lokmanya Tilak, clearly stated that if Britishers show the sympathy to the Indians, if they support the Indians, then only Indians will cooperate with the British, and they will also support the policies of British. Else we were against the British. This policy of Lokmanya Tilak is known as the responsive cooperation, and this kind of policy is known as the responsive cooperation. As we all know, there should be a cooperation to run any system or any government. So now we Indians are very much aware, we are very much educated, so that we can ask or we can stand for our demands. Montagu claims for Reform Act. We know the meaning of reform. Reform means changes. Montagu and Chelmsford, again, these are the two different British officers. What are these acts? In 1919, the British Parliament passed another act to bring constitutional reforms in India. Underline this word, this year also. Montagu-Chelmsford Reform Act was introduced in 1919. So these acts are introduced to just keep the calm, to keep the Indian people calm, so that they won't raise their voice against the Britishers. This act is known as Montagu-Chelmsford Reform Act. According to this act, less important departments were transferred to the Indian minister. So according to this act, the small or the less important departments were transferred to the Indians. Whereas the important departments like finance, home affairs and revenue were under the control of the Britishers. So even after the introduction of such act, the important departments are only in the hands of Britishers, and Indians are given only the nominal power, the basic power. So it doesn't make any sense, and Indians are not happy or satisfied with such kind of plans. The 1919 Act did not give much exposure to the demand for responsible government, because such act doesn't give any kind of any kind of exposure, any kind of opportunity to Indians to involve in the British assembly. The 1919 Act did not give much exposure to the demands for responsible government of Indians. Everybody was disappointed to this act. So everybody was not very much eager to involve in such kind of act, and it creates a disappointment against the Britishers. This is neither. Tilak criticized the act in following word. As we all know, meaning of criticizing, to say wrong or bad thing done by someone, to raise their voice. So Tilak criticized this act. Tilak criticized the act in following word. He said, "This is neither Swaraj nor its foundation." Nor its foundation means the start, the beginning. So Tilak clearly said that it is not the Swaraj and it is not the beginning of the Swaraj. So how we will support it? The Indians understood that if they have to subdue the British government, then the agitation needs to be more rigorous. So now Indians understood that British won't support Indians, won't give any power to Indians. If we want our freedom, or if we want to face the situation, then our struggle should be rigorous. Rigorous means, you can say, very fierce, strong. India got prepared for a new movement, and in this sense, India got prepared in a new movement. And as we all know, after 1990, it is called as a Gandhian era. The freedom struggle went under the control of Mahatma Gandhi. So we will discuss this topic in the next lecture, in next chapter, the 7th chapter. So we will come to know about the new phase of our freedom struggle. Okay, understood? Quite interesting chapter. We get more information about our freedom struggle, the different phases, the different movement. Quickly, so let's have the exercise. First, the blanks. The Servant of India Society was founded by, yes, the correct answer is Gopal Krishna Gokhale. Next, the first session of Indian National Congress was held at Mumbai. Remember? Gokuldas Tejpal School, Mumbai. The first session of Indian National Congress was started at Mumbai. Dash wrote the Gita Rahasya. Who wrote the Gita Rahasya? Lokmanya Tilak. When he was sent to the Mandalay jail for 6 years, in the prison, he wrote the book named Gita Rahasya. Next, write the names. We all know. Moderate leaders: Gopal Krishna Gokhale, Surendranath Banerjee, Firoz Shah Mehta. These are the moderate leaders. Extremist leader: Bipin Chandra Pal, Lala Lajpat Rai, Bal Gangadhar Tilak. And as we all know, these three leaders are very much commonly known as Lal Bal Pal. Lal stands for Lala Lajpat Rai. Bal stands for Bal Gangadhar Tilak. Pal stands for Bipin Chandra Pal. Okay? Next, explain the following statement with reasons. We need to explain the statement, the reason. In the struggle for independence, a sense of identity was awakened among the Indians. In the period of freedom struggle, a sense of awakened. What does awaken means? It kind of awareness. A sense of unity awakened in the Indians. You'll find it the page number 25. On the page number 25, right hand side, second last paragraph. Remember, Dr. Bhau Dajila, Dr. R.G. Bhandarkar, these Indian scholars made intensive study of ancient Indian culture. After understanding that we are blessed with the glorious ancient tradition, the Indians were awakened with a sense of identity. Understood? You should write your answer in the points. Okay? Always write your answer in points. So it will be very easy to remember and you will get maximum marks. Two groups were formed in Indian National Congress. As we all know, due to the working system, even people from different region, different territory came together. They want to work for the nation's cause. But again, their working situation or the working system was different. So there was a kind of rift between two groups, and two groups has been formed. One is an extremist and other is the moderate. You will find the answer on page number 26. Right? The paragraph extremist phase. Okay? Understood? Next is Lord Curzon decided to partition Bengal. We all know the intention behind the partition of Bengal is to divide and rule policy. You will find the answer on the page number 27. The partition of Bengal. Okay? So write your answer in points. Next, write short notes. First, the objective of Indian National Congress. We have a complete paragraph on page number 26. Yes? Second last paragraph. Objective of the Indian National Congress. So again, write your answer in points. Next, our anti-partition movement on the page number 27. We have a whole paragraph, anti-partition movement. Then 4-point program of Indian National Congress. What was the 4-point program of Indian National Congress? On the page number 27, right? Dadabhai Naoroji, when he was the president of the Congress session, he said the 4 words. What was that? Swadeshi, Swaraj, national education and boycott. These are the 4-point program. Okay? Clear? So please go through the video, read the chapter twice, underline the doubt so that we can discuss and solve it. Thank you everyone. Thank you so much.